because it starts with, well, Joseph Smith didn't practice polygamy. Okay, then where did the revelation of Doctrine and Covenants 132 come in? Well, Brigham, that wasn't announced till later, and Brigham Young,
Right.
slid it in there. Well, why did he slide it in there? Oh, because he wanted to, fornicate with a lot of women, or like, what? Whoa, time out.
As the cold winds of winter sweep in, there's nothing like the warmth of a comforting cup to help you slow down and unwind. This is the season. Let Postum be your cozy companion. Made from roasted grains, Postum is caffeine-free and rich with a smooth roasted flavor. It's the perfect drink for those quiet, chilly mornings. Whether you're curled up with a good book, sharing a laugh with loved ones, or simply watching the snow fall outside, a cup of Postum is the moment you have been waiting for.
Welcome, Twim, to another episode of This Week in Mormons. And it's always, when you hear my voice, it's like, who's going to pop out of the co-host box? And this week we have Jeff Borders. What's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Well.
I guess I'm all about the Jeffs.
Yeah.
We had Jeff Openshaw back in the day, who spells his name wrong. And we have Jeff Gaser, who I always say his last name wrong. And we've got, I thought there was another Jeff. Well, there's you, Jeff Borders. So, and you are actually, you go way back into the history of Twim Nation, whatever we call this thing.
Yeah.
When was your first introduction to This Week in Mormons?
I would have to look back to see when I wrote that first article, but it was a while back. I would say probably 3-4 years ago that I wrote my first article for Twim, and then I think I wrote somewhere near 100 articles for Twim.
Whoa! No way.
It's probably that close many? To 100. So before I really kind of started delving into actually writing more books than articles.
So I own a catalog of Jeff Borders' writing of 100 articles I can just turn into a book and make money off your name. I'm sure there's a lawsuit in there if I do that. Well, that's great. And what are some of the, like, as you were writing for Twim, what were some of the topics that typically would come up? Like, what was interesting to you?
Yeah, I wrote a column called The Convert Files. That was probably the biggest one. That was just kind of my experience of joining the church at 19 and some of the things that I ran into, some of the, weird cultural things that I ran into throughout the last several years of my membership. So, but then I also delved into music and movies and just, stuff that was tangentially even related to the church, and love doing that. So
nice. All right, give us a 30-second conversion story.
30-second. I met a girl, and
say no more. We know the
rest.
That's it. Nice. Where did you meet this girl?
We worked at Kmart together. There are no Kmarts left, but we worked at Kmart together.
And where were you living at that time?
In Spokane. So
okay.
Yeah,
nice.
Actually, I think there might be a Kmart left in Guam, but there's none in the United States proper. So
yeah, you're gonna have to tune into This Week in Kmart for that one, which I even think that podcast has been shut down. So did you end up marrying that girl?
Sure did.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Because that would, and I've heard those stories. It was like, yeah, we thought we were getting married, but she married someone else, and we're both happy, I guess. So
no, she hooked me.
Cool. And then you're the recent author of a book called The Antichrist Playbook, a guide for young saints to avoid deception and defeat the devil. So what's the story behind this?
Yeah, so this actually came about as a result of a lesson in Priest Quorum that I gave on Sherem. And as we were studying it, I started looking at these Antichrist tactics, and they're pretty common throughout the Book of Mormon. And there was a quote from President Benson that just said that, the Book of Mormon not only teaches of Jesus Christ, but it shows how the enemy operates. And that kind of got me down this road. And I had 9 rules that I came up with. There's actually more. I'm working on potentially a second volume of this.
Part 2.
We'll see how that turns out. But it really was because I've worked with youth for so many years. I wanted to write something directed at the youth because these tactics are used all over social media right now to get people away from the gospel.
That's cool. So you took like scripture figures of individuals who were antagonistic towards the church and sort of highlighted their tactics and then sort of put them in one book that's readable for a young audience and an old audience as well, but focusing on maybe that younger audience and helping them uncover and recognize some of these tactics that the adversary uses against us, even in modern times.
Yeah, and so it's written. It could be used by leaders, adults. It's got questions, reflection questions in it too. So it's not just a younger generation, but it's super light read, and it's written in very plain language, so it's easily digestible. So yeah, I'd look at people like Korihor and Sherem and Nehor, and Amalickiah and some of these other guys in the Book of Mormon, and some of these things that they use. And I remember after I wrote it that with my own kids, they were able to kind of go, "Oh, hey, look at that! That is flattery right there," or "Hey, look at that! Somebody's twisting scripture." It it's kind of like one of those things when you get a new vehicle and now everyone on the road has that same vehicle, you just notice it more.
Yeah.
So when you're aware of it, it pops out to you everywhere.
That's cool. Yeah. And I love it, that, the academics get us sometimes that, they know all this stuff and then they try and write a book and it's like boring, so it's really cool that you put it into a language that's more, universal. So
yeah,
that's really cool.
My kid said it was just cringy enough that it was funny. So the language. So,
and there's like QR codes in this and everything, like for more content, and so a very 2025 book. Well, I recommend it. Obviously, is it on Amazon yet, or where can people get it?
It's officially on Amazon as of last week. So,
awesome.
But you can also pick it up at Plain and Precious Publishing.
Yeah, that's your publisher, right? Cool. Very good. Well, JeffBordersBooks.com. So that means there's going to be more than one book, or is there more than one book?
Well, I'm a fantasy author by practice, so there are my fantasy books on there. But yes, there are more books coming out, hopefully with Plain and Precious Publishing in the future.
Have you gotten through? As a fellow author, church book author, have you gotten through the hurdle of actually getting on the shelves of Deseret Book?
We're not there yet, but I'm assured by the publisher that that is in the works. So
yeah, I know that game. It'll happen. It'll happen. And then what happened for me is I was like, okay, like how can I get in there? And little did I know they had put it on their shelves like 4 weeks earlier, and I'm still like, okay, who can I talk to? And then somebody sends me a link like, hey, you're on their website, man. I'm like, oh yeah, there I am. And I just went into Deseret Book. I've gone from having 2 copies of the book on the shelf. Now we had 4. There was 4 of my books on the shelf. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Anything else that This Week in Mormon's audience needs to know about Jeff Borders?
I don't think so. I mean, I've besides TWIM, I've written some for Leading Saints.
That's right.
I've published in LDS Living. So I'm kind of all over the place.
That's awesome.
I kind of
keep writing, man.
Yeah,
we need some good content out there, especially content like this. It'll help people maintain faith and things like that. So really cool. And I'm sure maybe there'll be some parallels to some stories this week. And you agreed to not only come on and talk about your book, but we're going to do the stories this week. So,
absolutely.
And I could have sworn you'd been on This Week in Mormons before, since you've done so much writing for us, but this is your inaugural episode.
I have avoided the video. So yeah. So there's the first time that I've been on video.
Well, if only you could write your responses, your commentary here, but
that's right.
No, that's good. All right. So, I mean, there's a lot of stories. Let's be honest, Jeff, like I keep track, like, cause we do a year end episode. So I have this spreadsheet that I have that pops up every week. And I don't know if I can find it here. And in my opinion, it has been like a slow news year. Like 2024 started out with the purchase of the Kirtland Temple. It's like, all right, here we go. Right. Like that was really cool. Where this one, oh, here it is. Top stories. Let me just, let's, here we are in May. Let's just get a quick run through of where we've been. These are the stories I felt like, I guess they're kind of important, but in January, we had the Peggy Fletcher Stack and BYU professors drama that was not drama, in my opinion.
Right.
You remember that?
I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
LA fire relief response. That's sort of we're kind of hijacking a more global story, right? Obviously, the LA fires were a big deal, and obviously the church, had a response there. American Primeval. I'm sure you've watched every episode.
All of
them. New gospel learning and teaching on Instagram.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, these are just captivating stories. Salt Lake Temple open house announced.
Oh, that was a big one. That was a big one.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Salt Lake Temple. Okay, big open house is announced. Okay.
Yep.
I mean, like, what was it, 2 years or something?
Yep.
The Ruby Frank Hulu documentary. Okay.
Yes.
Did you watch it?
I did, actually. I watched it with my whole family.
Family home evening, gather around, kids.
It was a family home evening. My kids wouldn't let me watch it without them.
We're going to learn about when therapists go crazy. Oh my goodness. I tell you what, I mean, I know this is an opinion show, so I'm going to slip this in there. Whenever I hear someone say, like, they like throw bishops under the bus, like, they're not a therapist, they shouldn't talk to people about their problems. I'm like, have you looked at the therapy industry lately? I'm just saying, like, just tread lightly
out there. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't just think, oh, well, she's got that certificate on the wall. I'll just lean in here. That's great. All right. Now we get into some heavy stories here, like new cougar tail flavor.
What? I didn't know. Yeah. I didn't know that one.
Yeah, they had like a blueberry, something blueberry. Anyways, Nathan and Valerie Haymaker resigned from the church. I don't know if you're familiar with Latter-day Struggles.
I heard about that.
I think that's how you say their name. And then higher emphasis on Easter. That was definitely a thing, right?
Yep, that was a thing.
And elderly elders mission. The older single men can now serve missions. So
yeah.
I don't know. It kind of just been a slow news year, in my opinion. I mean, what else? Is there anything else for us to buy? I mean, I know that there's more that the Community of Christ has that we'd maybe like to acquire, but I mean, I think we did it all. I think this means Jesus comes this year.
Right.
So let's go on the record.
I'm already preparing.
So I'm going to put in another story for May. Okay, this is going on my list. Michelle Stone shuts down 132 Problems YouTube channel. Okay, now a lot of people are saying, Michelle who? 130 Problems what? And to me, this is something I can't, and this is where you got to help me out, Jeff. I don't know if I'm like too close to these things, too close to this drama that comes up, because I am a fellow content creator in the LDS space. And so I'm kind of tuned into these things, but I think the vast majority, I mean, it's not like I don't think anybody wrote a story other than maybe the Tribune wrote something passively. I don't know. And maybe more is to come, but maybe if someone's to ask you, Jeff, who is Kurt talking about? Who is this Michelle Stone?
Yeah. And I think if you ask the typical member, they probably wouldn't know. And I think I know just because I'm pretty active on LDS, on Instagram, on Facebook. Michelle Stone had a podcast, 132 Problems, which was based off of her interpretation of D&C 132. And basically her whole aim was to prove that polygamy was an invention of Brigham Young and the subsequent prophets that came after him.
And that Joseph Smith never practiced polygamy, right?
Correct. Yep.
Nice.
So
now I want to respect all sides here. And even Jeff, I haven't talked to you prior to this. I mean, maybe you are what do they call them? Polygamy deniers. I think that's maybe a more negative way to frame it, but monogamy affirming. I mean, where do you stand on this issue?
Yeah, I actually, I've watched some of her stuff as much as I could stomach. I hate that's
say no more.
I don't know her personally. I just I've watched enough to know that when you start to doubt the credibility of prophets, you start to doubt the revelations that come with them. Specifically the temple, which was also one of her things, was whether we actually need the temple or not. And so, I mean, that, yeah.
Which is a big part of our theology, to say the least, right?
Right. Yeah. When President Nelson says that is the center of our worship of Jesus Christ, that's really hard to get around. Right, I don't know how you get around that. So
right. So And here's I'm trying to put this. I don't want to talk too long about this, but to me, this is like, all right, finally, we got some good drama to talk about in 2025. So, and I'll try and put this in context. Really, this debate about whether Joseph Smith practiced polygamy goes way back, really, to Joseph Smith III, the son of Joseph Smith Jr., our beloved prophet. And where after Joseph Smith's death, essentially, as Joseph Smith III grew older, he denied that this was everything. Emma was found denying it to some degree, as she was kind of caught up in the new reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And then years later, the Restored Church of Jesus Christ, which is now the Community of Christ, their church historians came around and said, it's pretty obvious. There's a ton of indication and proof and what do you call it, references that would signal that Joseph Smith practiced polygamy. Now,
correct.
It is our church's official stance that Joseph Smith practiced polygamy, right? So now all people involved here, Michelle Stone, I don't know her. She seems extremely sincere. I mean, I would love her to be her neighbor in her ward. Wonderful person. And there's so many layers to this. And especially for me as somebody who runs Leading Saints, who is very interested in cultural shifts in our faith experience. Because in my opinion, leadership is synonymous with cultural development and cultural shifts, right? So when these types of things come up, it's really interesting to watch them unfold. And sometimes it concerns me, and I'll get into that. So I think a handful of various scholars, I want to say people, like Michelle Stone isn't a professional historian, and that doesn't mean she can't speak on the topic. And there's others that speak on this too. And essentially they go down these wormholes of research and do all sorts of, in my opinion, acrobats. What's the word? Historical acrobatics to show that Joseph Smith was never a polygamist. Now, believe me, like, I'm just taking it to a different context. If someone came to you and says, we have found proof that actually slavery never existed and George Washington never owned slaves, I'd be like, okay, like, is that, I mean, that'd be really, obviously there,
right.
Maybe a bad example, but the point being is like something in our history that's so like, so uncomfortable, like to make it go away would be like really nice. Right. And so to me, that's what draws people into this. Is they think, I love Joseph Smith. I mean, you think of all the beautiful things that came out of the Restored Church and the Book of Mormon and Doctrine and Covenants and all this stuff. And then it's like polygamy, like, let's like, can we get rid of this? And so I can see why people are drawn down this, but to me, it is like a clear example of like confirmation bias. And where we want something and we start looking for the way it can be true. Now, anyways, and anything else as far as putting this into context? I'm kind of droning on here, but I have more thoughts. But anything else?
I mean, I think the thing is like, you can be uncomfortable with polygamy, and I think it probably is uncomfortable for most people, and still acknowledge that it occurred. I've listened to enough academics or scholars. Don Bradley is one that I think of that has.
He's fun to listen to.
Has done the research on it. But again, you can twist that research however you want it and do all sorts of backflips to kind of get around it, just because you want to kind of settle that cognitive dissonance that is occurring. But sometimes history is not that easy. History's messy, and
always messy.
If we try to make it easy, it just eliminates every part of it. So
I mean, again, going back to American history, like I love George Washington. I love the stories about him, the bravery, the person he was. But if I had to go back in time and see him like talk to his slaves or like talk about his slaves or like, I don't want to know. I don't want to go there right now. I know nothing about other than I know George Washington and many of the founding fathers had slaves. I just don't want to go there. Right. And so that's the thing here is but the problem comes, I think, is that in this quest to eliminate polygamy from the history of Joseph Smith, we end up kind of burning down the rest of the house in this quest to say that Joseph Smith didn't practice polygamy. Now there'll be people watching this and they'll say, "Oh, Kurt, if you just watch this or that," and it's like, well, first of all, every time somebody points me to this argument of Joseph Smith not practicing polygamy, it always ends with just watch these 8 episodes, 4 hours each, and then you'll get there. And in my opinion, that's like a red flag. If you cannot succinctly explain how this is not true, you're probably on a goose chase here a little bit, right? And I get there's some strong, like I've heard some of the arguments like, that's interesting, right? But at the end of the day, their side of the argument, in my opinion, takes so much more conspiracy. So many people behind the scenes, inner workings of, of altering journals and like bad mouthing Joseph. I mean, to me, it is, and you can't help but throw Brigham Young under the bus. And I know in 2025, it's so easy to beat up on Brigham Young, but I promise you, someday in eternity, when we have all things in context, we'll be like, oh, wow, Brigham, you had a really tough job and had some tough decisions, and you're the man of the 1800s, and I can see why, you weren't just a terrible person, right?
Right.
And so a lot of this argument of was Joseph Smith a polygamist or not comes to this, okay, who are we going to throw under the bus, Joseph or Brigham? Right?
Yep.
Because because Joseph Smith did publicly preach against polygamy, just like almost every leader in the history of mankind has always lied publicly. Winston Churchill, Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln. I mean, pick your person. All of these individuals did something, often involving lying in public, in order to manifest the greater good of saving lives. If Joseph Smith would have just gone out and publicly preached polygamy from the beginning, that would not, I mean, the people, our people were already persecuted to the nth degree. Who knows what would happen with this strange doctrine, right? Let alone, I mean, the fact, I mean, if God came to any of us and said, hey, if you just go let your wife know that you're going to take on more wives, I'll be like, ooh, like, I'm going to find anything else to do but that, right?
Yep.
That's why Joseph Smith put it off so long.
Yep.
This was a very complicated doctrine that was being established.
And I think
so, yeah, go ahead.
So I was going to say, I think the problem here, at least as far as I see it, and I could be completely off base with this, is once you throw Brigham under the bus, then you throw John Taylor and Wilford Woodruff all the way down to Russell M. Nelson, because there's this grand conspiracy to deny that, or to put the blame on Joseph rather than on Brigham, is the way they see it. And if I can deny all of the subsequent prophets, then the church is in some sort of fallen state, and it's easy to move away from covenants. It's easy to move away from anything, and then you begin to set yourself up as an authority on these things, and that's a dangerous position to be in for anybody.
Right. Yeah, and that's the thing, is this keeps impact or building, right? This domino effect that, because it starts with, well, Joseph Smith didn't practice polygamy. Okay, then where did the revelation of Doctrine and Covenants 132 come in? Well, Brigham, that wasn't announced till later, and Brigham Young, slid it in there. Well, why did he slide it in there? Oh, because he wanted to, fornicate with a lot of women, or like, what, time out. Where are we going here? It's like, and often they'll go to a place of like, well, prophets are infallible. Like, sure, they're infallible, but like, they aren't infallible to the nth degree where it's like, oh yeah, they can just do anything and make up anything and they're still prophets. No. Like, a prophet can lose his mantle as prophet by going super rogue and making stuff up like, oh, here's a random revelation that supports my position. And Joseph Smith actually came up with this, and I'm going to slide it in here and alter journals. And it's like, holy cow, like, we're getting a dangerous territory. And I've heard stalwart individuals who's begin to question section 132 altogether, right? And to me, you take away Doctrine and Covenants section 132 from our theology, I mean, that has huge implications with temple sealings, the nature of eternal families, pre-mortality, eternal life. Like, the reason we spend hundreds of millions of dollars into temples, the ordinances we do in temples, like, all that goes away, right?
Yep.
So we got to pump the brakes with this stuff. And so, anyways, all this to say is that Michelle Stone had this, so she created this YouTube channel. Bless her heart. Again, I mean, my heart goes out to Michelle Stone, and to me, this is a big issue of, well, I won't get into that, but anyways, she creates this YouTube channel called 132 Problems, a play on words, referencing section 132, basically wanting to state the case that Joseph Smith never practiced polygamy. Now, first of all, I give you, as a fellow content creator, like, I give you props for like finding such a niche topic and being able to come up with episode after episode after episode.
And it might be worth pointing out now, she had almost 200 episodes.
Yes.
And 120,000 followers on YouTube for such a niche thing. She had a big influence. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I'm going to start, I'm going to take Leading Saints and we're just going to talk about ward council agendas, and I'm going to do 200 episodes. I know it's much work on placing that, but to me, I'm like, every time I see a new episode go up on 130 Problems, I'm like, what is there left to talk about? Anyways.
This horse has been beat.
Yeah, exactly. So she has all these people on, and they share their research or whatever, and these are long episodes too. That's another part to it. And then there was this point, I don't remember this, but she went from like 15,000, 20,000 followers to over 100,000 followers, like within a week or something like that.
Yeah.
But very short time. Now, Leading Saints, This Week in Mormons, come on, guys, subscribe to our channel. We're getting there. But Leading Saints, we just crossed 10,000 followers. And this is with a concerted effort. And we talk about dirty leadership things, but that was an accomplishment for us to hit 10,000 followers, right? There's other channels with 40, 50,000 followers, which is like, okay, you're a big deal now in the YouTube space. To just hit 100, and a lot of people were like, okay, this is a little shady. Something's going on. Did she buy followers? Or she denied any of that from what I understand. So anyway, that was another thing in it. So suddenly got this huge influx of subscribers, right? And keeps putting out. And then she holds a conference. She organizes, I forget what it was called, the polygamy research. Anyways, it was all about polygamy research, and invited both sides of the argument to come and present. I didn't go to it, but I heard of people who did. And then just last week, she pops on here on her channel and just says, hey, thanks everybody. I'm going to shut this down. She said something to, I'd rather remain humble than right, or something like that.
Yeah.
So obviously all sorts of speculation comes to the surface. Did her stake president call her in? I know that many individuals had written to her stake president with concern. I didn't personally go that far, but as a fellow content creator, Latter-day Saint, faithful Latter-day Saint, I was extremely concerned about her content just because of the implications that I've already gone over. And now it's getting more and more traction. And these movements are hard to stop, right? So you're kind of thinking, well, and the church is in a tough position because it's like, I don't know, do we say something? Or, I don't know what they're thinking, but because you don't want to poke the bear,
we can't cause more problems, everything either. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so she gets on there, just basically says, I'm done. I'm taking down all the videos. Thanks for the ride. She doesn't say she's changed her mind or she believes differently. She doesn't even say if she's been pressured by anyone. I did listen to an interview with her producer, her main producer, who was on Steve Pinecker. Yeah. His Mormon book reviews. And she basically said, she confirmed, at least from her, what she knows, that there was pressure. She didn't say from who. I assume it's from her stake president. I don't know what those conversations are, but bless her heart for accepting that pressure and taking it down. Cause again, I think she's got a tiger by the tail. And, and anyways, what am I missing? Anything else in this?
You didn't miss anything. I watched that last video of hers. That's probably the only full video I've watched of hers.
Yeah. Cause it was 12 minutes long or something.
It was, right? I don't like watching people cry on camera. So that was hard for me. But she basically said that she was taking it down. She was going to go try to get a PhD in history or something like that. But yeah, she didn't necessarily say what the outside forces or pressures were to do that. So we can only make assumptions on what that might be.
Yeah. And I want to, make the best assumptions, obviously, but I mean, maybe she's got to a point and said, I just don't feel good about this anymore. I think I'm headed down the wrong path, or I just need to take these down, but I still think I'm right. I don't know. Another interesting caveat that happened is as she took it down, this other channel unrelated to her called 132 Answers started repurposing every episode and just putting it up there.
Oh, I missed that.
And that went for a while until that mysteriously disappeared, right?
Okay.
Which in Michelle Stone's producer said, this is like hearsay, right? But that Michelle Stone had nothing to do with that. It wasn't her idea. She wasn't trying to circumvent the system or anything. Because at first I was like, man, if your stake president is like meeting with you, it's like, okay, thank you for taking down your channel. Now, what is this channel? It's like, help me help you type of thing. Anyway, so we wish Michelle Stone the best. Of course, as a fellow content creator, I never want to get on a public podcast and slam anybody or assume ill intent or bad intentions. And if she ever wants to reach out and talk with me or help me understand things, I'm happy to do that. If she wants to come on This Week in Mormons, I mean, sure, we'll happy to do that. So anyways, I hope we've held her heart well in all this. I know this is probably, if I had to shut down Leading Saints, I would, man, like talk about a lifetime of work, and at least it feels that way. That would be so difficult. And so my heart goes out to her, and hopefully she finds herself in a better spot. Hopefully us as a faith community get to a better spot with reconciling polygamy in our history. I believe that Joseph Smith was a prophet. I believe he practiced polygamy. I believe he was given this impossible task of establishing polygamy and had to publicly lie about it. And he is not alone in that. He's still a great man with full integrity, just like Winston Churchill. Maybe that's a bad name to mention, but Roosevelt. Okay, that's maybe. But anyways, every leader has had these really complex situations where they have to make a call, they have to say things, and so. But to me, that opens the door to such beautiful doctrine that's been revealed through every subsequent prophet after him. So anyways, don't hopefully come at me in the comments with, oh, Kurt, well, what about this? Or you may misstated that. I'm not the expert on this, but as a lay Latter-day Saint member, I have to engage with these things without the response of, well, just go listen to 100 hours of content, then you'll get it. No. I have to trust in like the church I follow, the historians they have, and this is something. Anyways, we have to reconcile. So, anything else to say about Michelle Stone?
No, I have nothing else to say. Good luck, Michelle.
All right, Jeff. I've dragged on too much about the situation. Where you pick the next story? Where do you want to go?
I thought it might be cool to talk about what's happening in Africa because that's a personal story for me. My son is currently serving in Cote d'Ivoire.
Oh.
He's living in a little town, Timoti. That's just south of Yamoussoukro, the capital of Cote d'Ivoire. So if you don't know where that is, that's in West Africa. There's a ton of missionary work going on there. And each of the missions in his area in Cote d'Ivoire, they all serve another country. One of those countries is Guinea. And just recently, the church organized the first district in Guinea, which is huge. They're baptizing people often. I think he had 8 baptisms in his first 7 months.
Holy cow, that's awesome.
He said, so the problem isn't necessarily the baptizing. It's a fairly new area, and so there's not a lot of depth of leadership there. So they get to help out a lot and help kind of try to keep the wards and branches. They have branches and districts going there. So that's huge for West Africa. They're going on, and particularly in Guinea, there's no American missionaries in Guinea. They only send West Africans to Guinea. So even though that's in his mission, he'll probably never get to go to that new area. So that's huge there.
Yeah. The newsroom, I found this interesting, said that the African newsroom report explained that only 8% of Guinea's population identifies as Christian.
Yeah.
So the formation of a new district is a testament to the growth of the church in the country. Before the for the Sunday meeting, nearly 40 youth, friends, leaders, and full-time missionaries attended a Friday evening fireside. On Saturday, leadership training was held during the day and a session of the conference that evening for adult members of the 3 branches. 2 new full-time missionaries were also recognized as the first to be sent out to the new district. So anyways, I thought that was interesting. Not a very religious country, but nonetheless, the church is having impact on hopefully changing that. So
yeah, if you look at a lot of the demographic there, there's a lot of Muslim population. There's a strong Catholic influence there as well, and the church is growing. And as a sign of that, they just started the open house for the Abidjan, Cote d'Ivoire temple. Yes. So that's the first temple in that country. Closest temple to them would then be in Accra, Ghana. So it's now open for public tour, and this is huge for West Africa. And I'm trying to think, in the last 2 conferences, it seemed like there were probably 4 or 5 temples announced in Africa.
Yeah.
They're kind of popping up all over the place. So you can see where the church is growing and where it's putting a lot of resources into helping to strengthen the members.
Yeah. So this is what I found interesting about that is Abidjan Ivory Coast Temple.
Yeah.
This temple was actually announced by President Monson back in April 2015. And so I actually asked AI, like, what took so long, right? And I think it basically said in developing countries like this, there's just so many, in like Peru, for instance, the church has gone through this process, probably built relationships and things that it's much easier. But yeah, this is one of President Monson's temples that he announced, which led me down another wormhole to say, I said, are there any other temples that President Monson announced that aren't built yet? And it looks like there's a few that, the Zimbabwe temple, which President Monson announced in April 2016, is still under construction and scheduled for completion this says mid to late 2024. Thanks, AI. No other temples announced by President Monson remain in the announced but not yet under construction phase. Anyway, so I thought that was interesting that this is one of after all the temples President Nelson has announced, this is one from the President Monson here. So,
and it's kind of a cool looking temple. And it's different. It's got a kind of a bluish gray spire on the top.
That's cool.
And the Angel Moroni isn't quite the bright gold that you see on some of the other. It's more of a kind of a pewter. It's a toned down gold color. Nice. So it's definitely looks a little bit different, but it's kind of cool. So
nice. I love that. I'm trying to think, is there any other temple related? I think that was all of it here.
Other than the releasing of the rendering of the Colorado Springs, Colorado temple.
Yes, Colorado Springs, Colorado temple. The rendering of it's released, and looks like a temple.
Yeah, it looks like a temple.
I know it means a lot to the people in that area, but every time they put one, I'm like, yeah, looks like a temple. I don't know. And there's definitely, it's cool to see, like, you can pick out a President Hinckley temple pretty quick, in his surge of temples.
We have a Hinckley temple in Spokane.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a tiny temple.
It has that look, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, Colorado, you get a temple. It looks like a temple. Congratulations.
It's like Oprah handing out temples now.
That's right. Awesome. Quick, heavy heart story here. An 18-year-old missionary from Magna who was serving in the North Carolina Charlotte mission was killed on Thursday after being hit by a car. Elder Aleki Faletoto Anderson Langi's family said in the statement that he was respectful, loving, and loyal. So I guess this car accident involved 3 missionaries total. 2 were hit. 1 was not hit. Obviously, Elder Langi passed away, and the other missionary was just treated and released with minor injuries. So, man,
this is
just
tragic.
breaks the heart. We pray for them, and let's not have any more of those in 2025, at least. So, where do you want to go next? Any stories stand out?
This is tangentially related to Latter-day Saints, but I actually, in a sports news, was the Utah Hockey Club finally picking their
that's right
their mascot, the Utah Mammoth.
We are the mammoths.
Mormoner, I love.
I'm glad you're mentioning this.
Mormoner immediately got on it and had a Utah Kurullam logo that they made. And I saw plenty of memes with, there's already the saber tooth, there's the mammoth. Now we just need the sloth, and we've got the perfect Ice Age trio. So
yeah, and if somebody's not following this, how do you say it? I only read it.
I say it Kurullam. I don't Kurullam. Know if that's actually how it is.
Yeah. So Kurullam is an animal mentioned in the Book of Mormon, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's supposedly look like a mammoth.
A mammoth or a mastodon or something. I don't really know.
Someday we'll know.
Yeah.
Someday. So,
it could be a giant tapir. I don't know. Who knows what it is?
Yeah. 1% more a hockey fan, I guess, now that we have a hockey team in Utah. And it was cool that if you look at the logo, there's a shape of Utah like hidden in the mammoth. So it's
those are awesome. So
I love good design.
That was kind of fun. That was
good design. My 5-year-old has joined us for this segment, and feel free to pipe in, sweetie. Let's see, where do I want to go next? I'll do this one. So, what's next for the historic Fifth Ward Meeting House in Salt Lake City? So, as you would imagine, in Salt Lake, we have, especially in downtown area, there's a lot of these old, beautiful LDS chapels. Sometimes they are former LDS chapels, like this one, and basically says on Easter Sunday last year, the historic Fifth Ward Meeting House was partially demolished by the owner without permits to do so. City staff arrived to stop it, saying the owner of 300 West Holdings, a company managed by real estate developer Jordan Atkin, didn't have the necessary permits. So they're starting to, and I think their attempt is to restore it to some degree, but obviously you got to have the right permits and make sure that's done right. That says later that this old LDS chapel's got a rich history. It started out as an LDS Ward building, moved on to a rock venue featuring Smashing Pumpkins, Pearl Jam, Nirvana.
Now you're talking.
Yeah, right. They've all played in this former LDS chapel, and over time, it became a Buddhist temple.
That is quite a swing,
right? So I think now they are turning it into like a place for an addiction recovery program to help individuals, navigate addiction. So that's a good place for it to land, right?
Right.
Yes. And do you have any others you want to jump on, or do you? I just have a couple.
I was going to say it might be of interest just to read the message with the new shout out to our Catholic friends who very exciting for them. They got a pope, the first American pope.
Yeah, that's cool.
But what was interesting, the first presidency offered a message, as they often do when things like these happen. So, I'll just read it if you're okay with that. All right. So it says, on behalf of the leaders and members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, we extend heartfelt prayers and greetings to Pope Leo the 14th. I hope that's right. Roman numerals are not my strong suit.
Yeah.
This significant moment in the time for the Catholic Church is a reminder of the enduring importance of faith to people everywhere. As fellow followers of Jesus Christ, we look forward to continued opportunities to work together to bless the lives of God's children everywhere. May we strive to follow the example of Jesus Christ to care for the poor and needy, become peacemakers, and create a world where faith and goodness can flourish. So
awesome.
Kind of cool news for them. It may turn out that we end up with the first European prophet, and they end up with the first American pope. The way things are working out,
right?
Uchtdorf may be there before.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
for sure.
What a twist.
And it's just so interesting to get American Pope where they're like interviewing his brothers, and they're just like regular.
I watched the interview. That was so interesting.
They're just like regular Chicagoans, or yeah, he's a White Sox fan, or like,
yeah.
I'm like, because the Pope's always been like, at least for me and Americans, I feel like this mystic like foreigner that doesn't quite speak English, right? And this guy's like just having normal conversations. It's just, and it makes me, I guess it gives me better like appreciation for those individuals who finally get a general authority in their, who's native to their land and to their tongue and things like that. So, it's been interesting to just learn more about him and
to watch that.
Yeah, I'm excited to And it made me think he's 69. I mean,
he's young. He's
if
super
President
young.
Nelson was called at 69, they could be in for 30 years of this this Pope.
Yeah, the Pope. Yeah.
And just so interesting. Or to think that, like, yeah, I mean, our leader was doing heart surgeries when yours was born. Like, no, of course, we're not comparing. We love the Catholics. So, as happens with these types of stories, kind of churns up old stories in the algorithm. And this one came up. This was on the MoroniChannel.org, how the secretary to 3 popes became a Latter-day Saint. I was like, all right, this is perfect twin material. So I guess there was this secretary who's, obviously she was a nun, and was a secretary, as doing secretarial things to these 3 popes. And then it said something during her service as secretary, she met with different dignitaries. Let's see. Then she was like sent on this mission of some type, and that's where she first heard the word Mormon and had to like look it up in a dictionary. And then one night on her way back from Milan, she sat down next to two clean-cut young men. They struck up a conversation with her, and she later found out that they were 2 Mormon missionaries, Elder Scott Blazer and Elder David Maxwell. I knew next to nothing about Mormons, she said. The elders told me about the Book of Mormon and asked them to bring me a copy. And 2 weeks later, the elders brought the book to the convent. She then says, I soon realized that if I join this church, I have to give up everything. I don't know if the Lord would really want me to do that because I have everything here in the convent. I have my job. I don't have money because I've taken the vow of poverty, but they take care of everything I need, even when I'm sick. Wow. My security is here, and I'm doing good. I'm serving the Lord, she said. But this book is true, and this is the true church. I think I have to pray and ask the Lord what he wants me to do. Do you really want me to go through this and join the Mormon church? I asked the Lord. And so I started praying and fasting. And after I prayed and fasted 3 days, I felt strongly this is the true church. And if I wanted to be happy, I had to follow the truth. And then she obviously approached the Pope and said, this is the direction that I'm going. And he replied, you have your free agency. It's your decision. I counsel you to pray again and fast. And then if you decide to stay where you are, everything is forgotten. Let me know what you are going to do. And she did that and joined the church. So wow. I thought that was a fun Pope-related story. So
that's huge.
Don't read the Book of Mormon. That's how they get you.
That's how they got me.
It's true. That's how they got you, huh? Same story?
Yeah.
Awesome. Bishop Cossé spoke. Let's see, speaking to leaders in the global business, government, and community sectors gathering on May 7th in Salt Lake City, the presiding bishopric of the church highlighted the profound and interconnected value of service. Bishop Cossé said, helping others is the foundational principle for individuals' well-being and driving force for building strong, thriving communities and organizations. It talks about him, speaking as the presiding bishop to these business leaders and emphasizing service in the church, helping those in need, fostering self-reliance, providing service opportunities, and really encouraging that these business owners should do that. And then he highlighted the church's 2024 caring summary, which talks about the $1.45 billion that the church has donated last year. And I just love this, a little more PR and really like getting out there saying hey, we're not going to be completely transparent about every dime we spend, but we are making a difference here. And the criticism should kind of pump their brakes there because we're impacting people with a lot of money, right? Oh, well, there's more to give. Well, you've got more to give too. So once your bank account's empty, maybe the church will empty their bank account, but it should be the other way around. Okay. All right. See you in the comments.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's all I got, man. Do you have anything else?
That's all I got. No,
we still got like 10 minutes until we hit an hour. Let's talk more Michelle Stone.
Do you want to talk about the Public Square magazine article?
I didn't read it. Did you read it?
No, I didn't read it. I assumed it had to do with the Jared Halverson thing.
Oh, yeah.
But
be nice to Jared Halverson, guys. I mean, come on. He's a good guy.
How could you be mean to that guy?
How could you be mean to that? How do you got to lock him in a room and give him a talking to? Come on.
Yeah, above tongue lashing.
Anyways, but we again want to highlight the Antichrist Playbook by Jeffrey Borders. That's what it says on the book there, Jeffrey.
Yep.
Borders. And good. Give it a read and check it out and let's make it worth Jeff's while, so he'll keep writing. So you deserve this after 100+ TWIM articles. And I know how much you make from a book, so sorry about that.
Oh, you mean I'm not swimming like Scrooge McDuck, in my bank vault?
If you write a book about vampires and werewolves, possibly.
Yeah, I looked at the top 100. I'm not anywhere close.
Love it. Well, this has been cool. Thanks for joining me on this special edition of This Week in Mormons, where we invite one of our favorite authors on here to talk about his book and all the news stories and crazy YouTube movements about church history and polygamy. Right. So we'd love to hear your feedback. Come at me hard in the comments, because that actually helps the algorithm. So I will do my best to read all of the contrary comments and the supportive comments in the YouTube comments section. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit us over on, we also post these on Facebook, so you can comment there and like stuff. And we try and post ongoing stories as they happen or as they're published. And be a Patreon, because that helps us cover the costs, which sometimes the costs aren't covered. Big shout out to Postum. Jeff, have you ever sampled Postum?
I have not, but my father-in-law drank it all the time.
Oh yeah. Well, you've got a Postum coming to you in the mail by yours truly. So we're gonna get you some Postum, so you're fully in the This Week in Mormon family, and pick that up from your local Smiths if that's in your area, or you can order online. And they got an Instagram channel where you can learn recipes and all that. And then Tiffany always shares a awesome episode or awesome recipe with us, and I bet someday she'll write a book, a Postum recipe.
Oh, there you go. It'll be a bestseller, I'm sure.
Can't promise that, but hey, it's delicious. So, all right, I think I've said it all. Jeff, thanks for being here, and
thank you.
Hopefully we'll get you back in the future.
Cool. Thank you.